Okay, well, hello everyone, and thank you very much for watching or listening today. Today I have a very, very special guest, Mr. Stanley Von Hofstædter, who is the founder, owner, and promoter of Ragnarok bare knuckle fighting out of Norway, and also the CEO of Viking Promotions, which he runs with his business partner, pro fighter Andrew Bakewell from the UK. Stanley is also, I should call you Stan, shouldn't I? Stan is also a former bare knuckle fighter known as the Viking during his fighting career, been a veteran of the sport for many years, is the first professional Norwegian bare knuckle fighter in history, and the individual responsible for getting bare knuckle boxing legalized in Norway, which is a whole story in itself, which we'll get into in a moment. But first and foremost, Stan, thank you very much, obviously, for coming on my show and making the time for this. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. When I saw your first post, I just thought I checked out your credentials. Is that what we call it? Yeah, in English. Yeah, I checked out your CV, and I thought, shit, he knows what he's talking about. So I better be prepared, which I am. I'm not, but I'm always doing things on fast forward, so it's good. Thank you.
We're on the fly. Well, honestly, that's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. That's quite a compliment coming from yourself, Stan. So thank you very much. That's very humbling. Let's start at the beginning. I suppose is always a good place to start, because you actually have a background as a competitor yourself. You've competed in bare knuckle fighting. Now, what I want to touch on with this is that obviously Norway is not known as a fighting country. I mean, a lot of sports have been banned there, and including MMA and professional boxing until only a few years ago. So what was it, coming from a country like that inspired you to be a fighter, to want to be a fighter in the first place?
Yeah, I started my fighting career or martial arts career already in 1989 when I started full contact karate. So I had visited England a lot of times with the Kyokushinkai department there, and so I was quite familiar with England regarding to the fight business. But when you're referring to the bare knuckle boxing, it was how I started that. It was that was more like a joke that came into being more serious than I thought, and then it just went on, and after it went on. It ended up with a discussion or argument actually with some boxing commission guys, which led me to find out how do I get it approved, and by applying to the states to get an association legalized. It all went from that process. I don't know how deep you want to go into it, but you probably have next question with that association. So yeah, let's go.
Sure. Well, that is actually the next question, because I just wanted to give your background a mention, because people often overlook that. But yeah, let's get into Ragnarok itself and the exciting things that you're doing. You got bare knuckle boxing legalized in Norway, which, as I mentioned at the beginning, has obviously banned MMA and professional boxing, etc., for many years until about 4 or 5 years ago, I believe. So, getting something like bare knuckle boxing approved in Norway must have been an interesting process. So, can you just describe the process that you went through to basically change the face of sports in your country? Was it difficult? Was there a lot of resistance, or how did it go?
Yeah. How do I say that? It works. It's more like, and this I did not know in the start. I didn't know that I got that big step with the association. That was 90% of the legalization. And what the country requires is that you fulfill 16 points on a list in the right way, or exact the right words to get it legalized. So that list has not been sent in yet, but it's now fulfilled, supported by the Anti-Doping Commission. So that's 99.9% in order, so they can't stop us. But yeah, the process was interesting. It was, as I told you, it started with me getting irritated over some comments made on my interviews on TV, because they were always on it, like with the comment that, oh no, this is not regulated. And I was getting pretty sick and tired of hearing the word regulated. So it's just, I looked it up and said, what does it mean that it's regulated? So it seems that you have to have an association with a certain amount of rules, so you can take care of yourself and watch yourself in the game as it goes on then. And so you need somebody to safeguard it, like a security guard. And so I got started, and I tried to apply for 7-8 months. I got denied. And I just thought, okay, what have boxing done? So I looked up on the boxing sites for Norwegian Boxing Association. It said, well, 7 points there that were we call it vedtekter in Norway. You call it rules of association. With weight category, the normal things that with age, the time limit for the rounds. This the doctor who had to be there, and had to be a physician who had the control of the boxing rules. But 7 points there were, but none of them had anything about boxing gloves. So I just thought that, shit, this is all the thing that we need as well, because we have the same rules basically, but we don't have gloves. So I just took their rules of association, and that was just to do a test if they would treat us differently. So I just sent it in, I got it back, and it was approved. And then I said, what then happened? And I would not have anticipated it at all. Suddenly, the biggest newspaper in Norway, went out, and they have about 18 categories under them, big cities, that, okay, bare knuckle boxing has got themselves an association, like this big news. And I thought, okay, what's the big news? But that basically means that you have a police force that can watch bare knuckle boxing in Norway, and you have that approved. So that's the rules. I used their own rules just in a test to get it approved. So yeah, that's why they went so angry as well. They went bananas in the newspapers. So I didn't know the big fuss before later then.
Were you surprised by the exposure of, that you received? Because even if you think of the fact that when you were the first professional bare knuckle fighter in Norway, even if you think back then, there was a lot of exposure. But when you got this process through, and you got the actual sport legalized in your country, did you expect there to be as much of a as an uproar and all that sort of thing as you mentioned, as much attention, or was that a surprise for you?
It's always a surprise, still a surprise to me every day. How it can turn, how it can have such hostile thing towards the same thing as yourself doing, because not everybody knows that boxing comes from bare knuckle boxing, and that's the little funny part about it, because the only reason why they have gloves on their hands was so that the promoters could get more entertainment or have more betting in the register. So just more like a bad thing, a good thing. Just like if you put some gloves on, we can exploit them more. So and that's the funny thing about that. That was when the Marquess of Queensberg rules set in, and that's when people started dying. So they not only do they have this hatred against us, they also have all these big numbers of people dying. People, so 50% of all professionals after their career have a brain damage. That's 1 out of 2, and there's a boxer dying every 3rd week on a world basis. That's pretty high.
Yeah.
So all that hatred coming out when they originally come from us, and they have all the big numbers, I don't see that. It surprised me every day how they can be that hostile.
It's funny you mention that, Stan, because that's a very good point, and it is a question I had for later. But let's talk about it now, because I'm guessing, based on all of this, you're of the opinion that bare knuckle boxing is safer than glove boxing, because there's quite a debate that rages on, and I've talked to some bare knuckle fighters about this in interviews that I've done, But like I say, I was going to mention this later, but as soon as we've got into it, let's touch on that. Let's touch on that side of it, the safety. What are your thoughts on that side of things, Stan?
Um, of course, I'm in a country where the only two countries in the world that didn't allow boxing before was North Korea and Norway. So of course, this country you have to do a little preparation. You have to go through everything you can get through. And I'm pretty thorough when it comes to that, because I don't go into an argument if I don't know if I'm totally right. So that's my competitive stand coming out. But it's what can I say? Yeah, I don't know. So, what was the question again? I just dropped out.
No, that's all right. So basically, you feel that bare knuckle fighting is safer,
Yeah, sorry,
has the potential to be safer than the gloved counterpart.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, if you look away from, like I tell everybody, if you look away from your opinions and the sides, and you just look at the numbers, they speak for themselves. A boxer dying every third week, that's pretty high. That's like if you're on the motorway or highway, and there's let's say Tesla says that, okay, and they have all the cars getting on fire, and they're pointing at another guy saying, hey, those guys are dangerous. That's so insane. So if you look away from your own opinions or your own proof, just look at numbers, you will see that something is terribly wrong here. And it started at the day that the Marquess of Queensberg rules set in. So before that, there were 160 years of non-death in boxing. So if you're going to make it safer, you got to take away the gloves, obviously.
Absolutely, yeah. It's good to highlight that, Stan. Like I say, I mean, it's something I had for later on, but it's good we got to mention for that. Let's talk about Ragnarok itself, though, as an organization, because there's so many exciting aspects of this here. First of all, let's talk about the name, because obviously I'm personally familiar with where the name comes from, but just for anybody listening or watching to this who's not familiar with the history, because there's a whole historical and mythological aspect to this, can you explain the name just for anyone that doesn't know, please?
Yeah, Ragnarok is actually the big clash between the gods and the humans and all the characters then in the Northern mythology. So it's known as the biggest war in history, and it will change the world. People think the world will go under, but if you read into Northern mythology, it actually means that it's the time when Adam and Eve got to the earth and restarted it. So it's a restart process. So it's quite a beautiful story if you read it. So, but it's because it's the biggest clash in history or in the Northern mythology. So that's why it's suited perfectly for the things that I was going to set up.
Absolutely. Absolutely fantastic. I just wanted to mention, I mean, that's only a quick one, but it's just for anyone that doesn't know. Now, talking about another sort of side of this, let's get into it with your shows and how they're going to be. Because I know one of the things I want to touch on here is this concept of the Vikings versus the Saxons. Okay, now this is very, very cool, Stan. It's just me saying that because it's a very unique concept about the flag, about patriotism, and about how people are supporting their country, more than necessarily one individual. So can you explain, first of all, that concept of the bare knuckle fighting teams that you came up with, and also where that came from for everyone, please?
Yeah, actually, the teams. Before I went to England to meet my partner, I actually had most of the things set for how I wanted. I knew I wanted to make the greatest. The competitive side of me, which is pretty big, is like if I were going to make it, we're going to make it so big that it's going to change the whole game. And so it was actually Andrew and me and myself just, okay, you want Vikings to face the Englishman. That was original things. The Englishman comes back to Norway for revenge. That was what I first started with. So how can I make this interesting? That will fuck up a lot of people in England, or make them pretty, get enthusiastic, if you want to use that word. And also the Vikings. That's even though how soft we get, we are so proud of being Vikings, which it shouldn't be a thing you should be proud of. But hey, you take what you can get. So Yeah, but the names for the Saxons and the gladiators, it came along because we had the Vikings, and the Vikings are shit hot for this times. So it's on TV, it's all series, and yeah, so it's that's why I think Andrew actually came up with the Saxons.
Okay, brilliant. So we can thank Andrew for the Saxons and you for the other half of it. That makes sense.
I was going for the Englishman, but that would have been so exciting. So
yeah. Well, I love that, Stan, because it's a very unique methodology of people supporting their flag and things like this. Now, another aspect to that, to sort of expand on that, is your shows. Now, I know that obviously you're preparing for your June show. For our viewers, this interview was filmed on March 26th. So at the time of this, Stan is preparing for his June show with Ragnarok, and Andrew as well, obviously. Going to be very exciting. Can you talk us through some of the vision that you have for this first show? Because I do want to talk about bigger expansion, European expansion, all that. But before we get into any of that, let's talk about this, because you've got some great names on the show. You've got a lot of exciting things happening. So anything you'd like to say, really, Stan?
Yeah, thank you, first of all. Yeah, it's I got to say, but having those, like you said, the fighters, those kind of fighters fighting in my organization, it's pretty. I'm pretty humble about that, because it's something I would not have imagined in anywhere in the world that would happen. That we had the league with the most champions. We actually have the best guys from the whole of England. There's two other guys going back to America now, but they popped into our office first. But that's pretty. That's something I'm not too good at taking credit for things, but yeah, that's pretty amazing, and that is basically just because of the good story. So that leads me back to when I started. What I was thinking about? I was thinking about making the best show, because I'm not humble when it comes to making an entrance, or I want to go out as the winner sometimes. I don't want to have a mistake or something like that. So again, when we are we call it, we come from the Vikings. That's our proudest thing. So I thought, okay, and you're also the Vikings fighting, so why not just use that mythology and that name to enthusiast people? Yeah, make people enthusiastic. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's an incredible idea behind it. I love the vision, Stan. I know it's yours and Andrew's vision, but I love the vision. So, touching on your shows itself, I mean, I've got to ask an obvious question here. We've touched on one thing that separates your shows from other bare knuckle organizations, which obviously being the teams and things like that. When we get there to June and obviously to other events after that, because obviously there will be more, what can fans expect? I mean, I'm not sure how much you can disclose at this time, but what can fans expect in terms of atmosphere and things that separate your shows from other organizations, if that makes sense, if you know what I mean? Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
I can talk about the show and then the organization, maybe. Yeah, like I told, I gotta go back a little bit before then, because the show, like I told, I knew I wanted the best thing. And how do you get the crowd? Because if you're going to have the best fighters, you're going to need the biggest crowd. So how do you get the biggest crowd? You get the best show, and that makes a circle with, okay, best show, best fighters, best paid. Yeah? And then you have this good thing going. So just by getting one of those things up and going, like the great show, then by making it, by the way, all my videos on the YouTube is made by my iPhone. I just use my iPhone and just use the app called Clipart. Okay. Yeah, so everything's just made on a telephone for now, so that's going to be more professional later. But I made this video by downloading things from YouTube and Google, and just put pictures together and put on a lyric, like with English coming back, and I sent it out to Andrew, and he sent it to Gas Corin, and he just sent it all over the world, and then just exploded, and people started calling us. So that's also when the name started. The English guys were totally mental about it. It went over to the Italians, which are some friends of Andrew, and they called us and they suggested, what about fighting the gladiators? And I was like, yeah, shit, that's a better idea. That would make a big fuss. And then while talking to them, what Tor called, the fight organization in Poland, and it just and took off. So I had a good start, and from there it just came falling down at my door. So, but you're talking about my show, the organization. Obviously, we are basing the organization on that we are fighters ourselves, and we put the fighters as #1 guys because they're the guys making the money for us. So you should be a fool not to put them on the top shelf. So and that's the thing that's luckily for me is missing in this game. There's a lot of bad promoters exploiting fighters, and all I did was just let's put up the wages a little bit, take away that the shit that they have to sell tickets to pay their own wages. They're actually paying their own wages while you're doing the show for them, and it just exploded. And people are like, oh yeah, you're so nice. Yeah, you're normally that nice. You treat people with respect, but I didn't know we were so hungry for being treated good. So it's just like, oh, look what my promoter did. He just sent me a message and said, congratulations. And you say, okay, that was good. So you get a lot of free credit, and that's like I told you when I was into it. You have to have good fighters that trust you. You have to have a good show that will sell, and you can get the good fighters. And that's why the show is probably going to be pretty good because we have the best fighters. So we will get the big crowd. So and little trips and nips there, you can just suddenly have the greatest show in the world. So it's based on taking care of the 3 different objects in front of you and just how can I say that in English? Like Andrew says, tickle the balls. It will just explode. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Very cool. That's one way of putting it for sure. Well, you know something, Stan, I love the concept. I love the principles and the values as well. And I have heard, and I can say this because it's out there, but when I interviewed Shannon Rich, he said he'd never been treated any better in, you know, pretty much all of his fights than he has with you guys. So I think, and he's had well over 200, 300 fights. So, you know, that's quite a testament. Moving on with a couple of other things here. I mean, you know, we've talked about international talent. We've talked about English talent. Let's talk about the homegrown Norwegian fighters, the Vikings. You know, all of this concept. I mean, what is the talent pool, if you know what I mean, currently like in Norway? You know, are there many bare knuckle gyms? Many fighters coming through, young fighters. I mean, what's the situation with the homegrown talent, if you get what I'm coming from with that?
Yeah, of course, I get that because no, actually, it must sound crazy to you English guys, but there are no bare knuckle gyms. There are none of them, and that's basically also because there's not even boxing almost. I think there's about 4 clubs that are big in Norway. So I don't get what their fuss is about. We're coming on the market, but you know, it's small, and that the problem with that you see in Sweden. You see they have this king of the streets. You know, they have to go underground, and I'm totally okay. They do it for the love of fighting. I see the things that you do, but for the safeguarding of the fighters, you need to have certain rules of association to take care of them. You can't call that an association if you don't take care of the fighters. So first thing you should do is not fight on concrete. That would be smart. But yeah, the problem is then with these small, we don't have any gyms like that. That they end up in small fight clubs and things like that, and that will be that can be more crucial than it's if it was legalized and out there. So the funny thing about, I have a lot of lawyers working on this legalization and just getting it through, and it seems that it doesn't seem, how would I say that? My lawyer told me not to say anything about it, but he said to be bounded by the regulations, you need to do like the regulation says. So if I would call my show, we go for full contact smackdown, then I would not be locked to the knockout law because we don't have knockouts. You get my drift.
Yeah.
And there's the only place in the world is Norway. Why do you have to fulfill amateur rules when you're a professional private club? So that's not even legal, I think. So it's all of these things are making it difficult. Then you get young guys going to Sweden, fighting underground, and I think it's a bad thing that I hope people will realize before it's too late. It's never in the history of the world has been anything better than to hush down people and put them on the ground. That has been a tragic thing in drug-related things, in fighting, and yeah, basically everything.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from 100%. It's good to give that a mention. Flipping that on its head to a slightly more positive angle, though, do you feel that you're inspiring people in terms of showing fighters in Norway? I know there's a lot of work to do, I know, but showing them that it's possible that they will be able to compete more openly in the future. They can get some mainstream exposure like you've had, both with your organization, obviously, and yourself personally. Do you feel that you're having that positive impact on your homegrown talent, and things like that, and showing them that it's possible they can compete? What are your thoughts on that, Stan? That inspiration side of it.
I would love to say yes, but uh, I don't know if you follow a lot of the attention that's been from the MMA environment. They have been treated
Mm.
very badly here in
Yes.
Norway, or what do you call fooled, because they have more put their what do you call it, their frustration against us. That
Mm.
okay, now it's going to be never going to be legalized with MMA because now we are getting it through.
Right.
And the only reason why we got through this the first needle hole was because they were not expecting boxing bare knuckle coming out in on the same rules of association that they have. They were too busy keeping out Thai boxing and MMA. So the step here is in Norway you have to have when you get it approved, you have to have the rules of association. That
Mm.
means the right rules for the right game. So the only way to get through, and I know this because I applied for 8 months, and my rules of association were much better than theirs. The only thing that can get through is boxing. When it comes to MMA, you have to legalize choking, you have to legalize kicks. That's not on their menu yet. So I just got by on them in the back door. So sadly, I would hope that this inspires people, but another negative. How do you get people to turn against each other? We should be together against this, just trying to get our sports legalized.
Mm.
But there's sadly been a lot of focus on that. But of course, you're inspiring people. People think it's amazing how you can do it, but
Mm.
it's you actually got to be crazy enough to think big enough. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the incredible things, obviously, and about yourself, is the vision that you have for changing the face of sports, in your country, and obviously, I know on a bigger level, but especially giving these athletes the opportunity. So it's an incredible thing. In terms of expansion into other countries. Now, I know it's early days, and I know obviously, it is early on in this whole thing, but what are your plans for expansion in terms of, firstly, into Europe, into other European countries? There's a big market there. Also, potentially, into obviously UK, America, Australia, any other countries. I mean, those are off the top of my head, but anywhere else you have your eyes on at the moment. Can you just talk about the whole
Yeah,
concept of expansion, please? Because, that'd be a good one to touch on.
I'll give you a sneak peek first of all. So
Oh, wow.
not more than that, but yeah. I'm a dreamer. I'm a big fan of why not do it all. But yeah, of course, we are going out in the world. We are. This is Europe first. First of all, Europe. So we try to put together the first. As like I told, they started calling us. Suddenly, Votori is on the phone. I'm just watching Votori on TV, and one of my fighters, Simon Sikotovic, yeah, he fights in the Votori. He's been in the final 2 times on a row. So he just said, yeah, I'm talking to the Votori guys. I just mentioned the Ragnarok, and they just start calling you in the middle of an Italian telephone. And oh, I'm just on the phone with Italians, and then it just goes on from there. And people started calling us from all over the world. We got America calling us. We got New Zealand called us. Australia called us. We had Taiwan calling us. And suddenly we just, shit, we can make this global. We can make this, we can make this like the continents. So we've only scratched the surface now with the Ragnarok. So the first show is obviously Europe. That 13 guys goes out to conquer land in Europe, which is the story. And then we'll facing the Italians, the gladiators. That will be an amazing show. And the cool thing, or the touching thing, or the humble thing, what I'm humble about is that the first show in Italy is going to be a Ragnarok ever in history. First bare knuckle show. So they're putting on to us, and it happened like this. Okay, let's have one home show and one away show. So if we come to you and give you Ragnarok and you put it on and you come back to us, will you do that? And they were like, yeah, shit, ticket sales are good, and why not? We don't have to risk anything. And we get the gift back if they're coming to us. And we have footage going there, and suddenly people start calling us from BKFC and want to buy streams, and all the big guys are calling us. In the beginning, actually, when people called, it was just, yeah, shit, yeah. Oh, okay, put on the screen, it was like, oh shit, that's David Feldman. Yeah. So it started pretty early. So that's just says how important it is to have something. You have to have the idea, the right idea first. Mm-hmm. So that just set fire.
Incredible. Well, it's amazing to see the expansion. I mean, the growth is explosive. You touched on something there, Stan, that I do want to highlight, because there's only a few more things I've got anyway. But one of the things I do want to highlight is streaming, and how people can watch your shows when they're not, particularly with the June show. People who can't physically be there. Obviously, travel is not what it used to be from every country. Things like that. So, what are some of the streaming angles that you've got going on at the moment of how people can watch?
We are like I told you, we are in negotiations with, like, of course, David Feldman, which is he has the biggest app in the world. He's streaming for 600,000 people, I think. You have a show or something like that. And we are also in talking negotiations with other guys, which are big. They're big guys on streaming, because I don't know, people know that, but if you're selling a show, you can sell the streaming rights, the live stream. That's what people often want to buy, and they just buy it for a certain amount of days or weeks or maybe a month, and then you get it back, so you can sell it to other TV companies. So and it's like this in the game. I can't say anything before it's confirmed, so I can just confirm that we have a Scandinavian big TV company, the biggest, I think, making a documentary about Ragnarok and the whole process. So they're following one fighter from Sweden, Denmark, up to the show, and at the same time they're doing a piece about me and Andrew coming to the show, and they're at the event, and then of course they follow the event and afterwards, and that's just a documentary. And they don't need too much footage from the live stream, but if they do, they just buy it from the live channel. So there are many points where we can sell it and where you can see it, but live you can see it on a platform that we cannot confirm yet, but we are in negotiations with the biggest companies in the world, so that's a good start.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's great to hear. It's great news. The other thing, Stan, with this is, what about fighters themselves? I mean, people getting in touch with you who want to compete, on your shows. I'm sure you probably get, bombarded with fighters. But how can fighters reach out to you or to Andrew, for that matter, if they want to compete with you guys? I mean, what's the process they have to go through?
Now they just go to the webpage, to Ragnarok BKF. www.com, or they go to the Facebook site, and there will be a link there to where you can apply and what you do. So what you basically do is just you put down the words you have about yourself, your record, if that's something you have, and a little bit about yourself, and you send it in to us. So you can send it on Facebook, or you can send it on Instagram, or you can send it to our webmail. It doesn't matter. So we'll read it, and we're, like I told the guys, I'm sorry, because obviously we exploded pretty fast. So there's way out of what I was could imagine even. So sometimes it takes a little bit longer time to answer you, but we will answer you in a few days or maybe a few hours. It depends how many people who comes in that day, or if I'm talking to you. So it's
Yeah. Wonderful. No, it's really good your lines are open. I know there's so many fighters that would be interested. I've personally already told one or two to get in touch with you, Stan. I mean, it must be crazy for you guys, though, but it's in a good way. Brilliant. So obviously that leads to social media, just in terms of where people can go to get in touch, or, I mean, not so much for fighting now, but fans who want to keep an eye on the event development. Is that the same thing? Is that Facebook, the website, the same places?
Yeah, it is. Instagram, Facebook, and on the page. But on Facebook, there are links to all the pages. So Facebook also has links to Viking Promotion and to the Norwegian Association of Knuckle Boxing. So either one of those sites, you will find a way to talk to me or Andrew. And that's another thing that I was in an interview yesterday. Was that yesterday or the day before with the Fight Mixer show, or they call it Bare Knuckle Most Wanted? Yeah. And it was Shannon was also there. He told him that you in this organization you talk directly to the promoters, and that's mainly because we also want to be including in our own decisions, but it gets you the opportunity to come closer to the fighters. And and that's why it sometimes takes maybe a day before we get back to you, because we want it all for now. So we can see how that will go, because I don't know how many hours there are left in the day now. So yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, it's incredible. I mean, you know something, Stan, that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. I mean, you know, we've got your career, we've got the growth of Ragnarok, we've got the growth of bare knuckle boxing in Europe, globally. We've covered all these things, and in fact, we've covered more than you know what I sort of envisioned. You know, which is very cool. I must say. I would like.
I just gotta say something. It's this, like I told you, this was not something that we planned for at all. It was the first time I met Andrew. I went to England to find somebody which can get me fighters, and I met the first guy I met was Gas Corin, and I was just like, holy shit, okay, cool. So it was like that. Every time I got up and got to air, it just came somebody new falling down me. Hello, and they was just so humble and so called me a genius, and I was just. So the hardest process has been just accepting that it's going so fast. So. Shit, we're talking to the biggest guys in the world right now, and just like, okay, 6 months ago I would have pissed my pants to do that. So it's great to see that the bare knuckle community is actually pretty awesome at that stage, because everybody can bend down and pick you up. You know, it's not like and here. That's also because it's not that big yet. It's not just exploding, but. It's amazing how you can just sit suddenly you're talking to Shannon Rich, or you're talking to Gas Corin, and it's just like, shit. Yesterday I was in the Kristiansand airport just watching people drink beer. Now I'm here. So I just want to say thank you to all of the guys who has been on the process here, taking us up. So let's see how far it goes.
Incredible. Well, you know, champ, that was my last question, if you had anything to say to your fans and supporters, but you've answered that. It's been incredible watching the growth. Everybody keep an eye on Ragnarok. This is going to be the next big thing. I mean, it's already exploding, as you've heard. Show coming up in June. There's going to be more shows after that, some of the best in the world. So it is exciting times. But, you know, Stan, like I said before, I'm super grateful for you making the time to talk with me and to talk with, obviously, everyone who's listening and watching this. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's an honor to be on your show.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon. DuraBlue Limitless, the purest phycocyanin on the planet. This is taking the sports industry by storm, with multiple world champions, Olympians, and many other world-class athletes, all the way down to your regular gym goers and fitness enthusiasts, even amateur athletes, using this product to maximize their potential and move a step closer to the life of their dreams. This product works in a unique way on a cellular level. Unlike any other product on Earth, this is created with a patented photobioreactor technology that no one else in the world has access to, breaking down lactic acid and reconverting it into ADP. In other words, breaking the waste and reconverting it into fuel. You can train longer, harder, faster, and considerably outdo your competition. Whether you're just looking for more energy, whether you're a professional athlete, or somewhere in between, this product is for you, boosting physical, mental, and emotional health through increased energy and amazing world-class anti-inflammatory effects that cannot be beaten.